You know, when you think of ancient Egypt, you probably think of things that feel eternal, right? The pyramids, the Sphinx, a civilization that just lasted and lasted for 3,000 years. But its story isn't actually one of steady, unbreakable endurance. It's a story of these spectacular rises, absolutely devastating collapses, and then somehow these stunning rebirths. So let's dive in. To really wrap our heads around just how ancient Egypt truly was, we're not going to start at the beginning. No. Instead, we're jumping way forward in time, to the year 1200 AD, and we're going to see it all through the eyes of a scholar from Baghdad, a man named Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi. So when al-Baghdadi gets to Giza, he is just completely floored. I mean, the monuments were already so old that their creators, their whole purpose, even their language, the hieroglyphs carved right into the stones, were a total mystery. He actually wrote that he couldn't find a single person in all of Egypt who knew how to read them. They were just silent. Okay, let's really try to process this number for a second. When al-Baghdadi stood in front of the Great Pyramid, it was already 3,700 years old. That means the pyramid was more ancient to him than he is to us today. I mean, just think about that. It's an almost unimaginable stretch of history. And that's the big question, isn't it? It's what puzzled al-Baghdadi. And it's the question we're going to tackle today. To find the answer, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning to understand what gave Egypt all its power in the first place. Everything, and I mean everything, about ancient Egyptian civilization was built on two fundamental forces: the incredible, predictable power of the Nile River and the absolute authority of a divine king, the pharaoh. And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of the Egyptian worldview. They saw life as this constant balance. On one side, you have Kemet, the Black Land, that rich, fertile soil left behind by the Nile's annual flood. This was order, stability, life itself. But just beyond it was Deseret, the Red Land, the endless, chaotic desert, a place of danger and death. Their whole existence was about keeping that chaos in bay. So who was in charge of maintaining this really delicate order? The pharaoh. Around 3000 BC, a king named Narmer, who was sometimes called the Fighting Catfish, which is pretty great. He conquered and unified the lands of Upper and Lower Egypt. He created a single, powerful state with the pharaoh at its absolute center, not just a king, but a living god on earth, whose whole job was to maintain cosmic balance, something they called Ma'at. So, you've got the entire land unified under one god king. All of Egypt's resources and manpower are focused like never before. And this stability, it just unleashes this unprecedented wave of ambition. It kicks off the Old Kingdom and gives rise to the most famous monuments in human history. And you can see this ambition just explode in the royal tombs, which evolved incredibly fast. I mean, they started as these simple mud brick rectangles called mastabas. Then, this genius architect named Imhotep has a revolutionary idea for his pharaoh, Djoser. Why not stack them? And boom, you get the step pyramid, the world's first massive stone building. After a few, let's call them learning experiences by Pharaoh Sneferu, like the famous bent pyramid, he finally perfects the smooth-sided true pyramid. And from there, the scale just went off the charts. Sneferu's son, Khufu, he takes his father's perfected design and aims for something that is just legendary. His Great Pyramid of Giza soared to 147 meters. It was the tallest man-made structure on Earth, and it held that title for nearly 4,000 years. So who actually built these incredible things? Well, that image we all have of slaves being whipped? Yeah, that's almost certainly wrong. Graffiti found deep inside the pyramids reveals they were built by skilled workers and farmers, probably working during the Nile's flood season. They even worked in these competitive teams with proud, rowdy names like the Friends of Khufu and, my personal favorite, the Drunkards of Menkaure. This era of unity and immense ambition, the Old Kingdom, it must have felt eternal, like it would never end. But no golden age lasts forever. A perfect storm of internal weakness and external crisis was about to bring the age of the pyramid builders to a catastrophic end. The first crack in the foundation, it was political. You could call it the Old King problem. Pharaoh Pepi II reigned for over 6 decades. And as he grew old and frail, powerful regional governors started acting like they were little kings in their own territories. His death triggered a massive succession crisis, with at least 17 different pharaohs trying to claim the throne in the next 2 decades alone. Just total chaos. And right as the political order was shattering, the natural order broke down too. A huge global climate event caused a mega drought. The Nile's life-giving floods, they just failed, year after year after year, and without the flood, there was no food. The very foundation of Egyptian life had just crumbled away. The absolute horror of this period is captured in the tomb inscriptions of a local governor named Unktifi. I mean, just read that. This wasn't just a political collapse, it was a complete societal breakdown. Egypt split apart, plunging into a dark age we now call the First Intermediate Period. The central state was just gone. But if there is one lesson from Egypt's long, long history, it's this: resilience. Because out of the chaos and the despair of this first collapse, Egypt would rise again. It would be reunified, stronger, and ready to face a world that had changed forever. After more than a century of division and darkness, a powerful warlord king from the south, a guy named Mentuhotep II, he conquers his rivals up in the north. He reunites the two lands, and he kicks off the Middle Kingdom, a brand new era of stability and incredible cultural achievement. But the cycle continues. After this new kingdom also declined, Egypt faced a threat unlike anything it had ever seen before. Foreign invaders known as the Hyksos. They swept in from the northeast, and they had terrifying new military technology, the horse-drawn chariot and these incredibly powerful composite bows, which just completely outmatched the Egyptian infantry. The Hyksos conquered the north, and the Egyptians were pushed all the way back to their southern heartland in Thebes. They were trapped. But the Theban pharaohs, they refused to be vassals. King Kamose rallied his people with this cry, vowing to drive the invaders out and save Egypt, no matter the cost. And this right here, this is where everything changes. See, the Egyptians didn't just fight back. They adapted. They learned how to build chariots. They mastered them. They improved upon them. And they turned the invaders' greatest weapon right back against them. After finally expelling the Hyksos, they forged the new kingdom. And this wasn't just a reunified state. This was a full-blown, aggressive, expansionist empire. So when you step back and look at this incredible story, you start to see the fundamental rhythm of ancient Egypt. It wasn't one long, steady, unbroken line. It was a cycle: unification and glory, followed by collapse and chaos, followed by a violent, powerful rebirth. And this cycle repeated itself over and over and over again. Think about it. Most empires would be lucky to have 31 kings. Ancient Egypt had 31 dynasties of kings, spanning more than 3 millennia. It survived collapses that would have been the final death blow for pretty much any other civilization. So it leaves us with this final thought. The story of the pharaohs suggests that true endurance, real strength, it isn't about avoiding crisis or never falling down. Perhaps true strength is the capacity to collapse, to learn from the ashes, and to rise again, even stronger than before. That might just be the secret to a 3,000-year legacy.